Hello again. The thumbnail to this video supposedly shows a woman who will be 30 this year. Her appearance, though, clothes, mobile telephone and so on, would be more in keeping with a 12-year-old. This is something which is often observed in grown men who express the wish to change sex and become women. They seldom, it seems, aim to be ordinary women of the kind whom we all know. That is to say, women who get their fingernails dirty while gardening, who loll about in jeans and old sweaters, who often don't bother with makeup and let their hair become tangly or unwashed. Real women, in other words. No, the aim of those people almost invariably seems to involve some fantasy version of a woman, all too often one a good deal younger than their chronological age. It is felt to be a little cruel or indelicate to draw attention to this, but it's certainly something which many of us notice. The predilection for pink little girly stuff is one trend which has been remarked upon. It is almost as though these people aspiring to such identities are not actually women, but rather men with strange desires and fantasies. The person in the thumbnail is, by the way, it's actually Robert De Niro's son or daughter, Aaron or Aaron, as he or she wishes now to be known, recently revealed as transgender. There is a good deal of crossover between transvestites, those men who dress as women to fulfill some sexual thrill or as part of a fetish, and transsexuals who say that they actually believe themselves to belong to the opposite sex. Eddie Izzard, the comedian, for instance, claimed for years to be a common or garden transvestite and was photographed in what most of us would describe as fetish gear when acknowledging that he was a transvestite. Then, when it became fashionable, he switched to being a transsexual and being accepted as actually being a woman by some right-on left-wing types. Few people were convinced, though, and most of us thought that he had been right when he called himself a transvestite. It is the sight of grown men, though, who try to present as teenagers or even children, which causes a lot of people to raise their eyebrows. It is a distinct trend, and on the face of it suggests that the individual concerned are satisfying some deep inner need, rather than simply being women trapped in men's bodies, as we are supposed to believe. Another recent instance of this is Emily Bridges, the transgender cyclist who was banned from competing as a woman. Bridges gave an interview recently about the Supreme Court ruling about trans women not being real women. I give a link to this interview in the description to this video. Have a look at it. Bridges, who was 24, was wearing his hair in two plaits like a schoolgirl, and also had on what rather looked to me like the old-style national health glasses for girls. I would be most surprised to see a real 24-year-old woman presenting to the world in this way, and Bridges looks more like a man trying to appear as a schoolgirl than anything else. I'm not saying that all transsexuals are like this, but certainly there are enough to make this a definite and noticeable trend in the world of sex changes and transsexualism, and it's one of those things which real women often pick up on. Nobody should have any objection to a grown man wishing to dress as a teenage girl, but it is probably a hobby which a lot of us think might be better practiced as a private pleasure rather than a public lifestyle.